Well deserved. And thank you, Darren. And now, if I could ask none other than Renee Spell. Renee, would you mind coming up and giving a little quick update on our service day and how things stand? And we're in the fourth quarter, so looking forward to a strong finish.
Maybe some trivia.
Renee,
Thank you, President Scott. First of all, I want to report in on our trivia night last Friday. It was fun. We had about 10 different groups participating, and we found out we can do that via Zoom as well. I know my spouse was terribly into it. He gave him a chance to expound on his history degree. But anyway, a lot of fun. If I had learned how to mute my computer, I wouldn't have been giving away the songs quite as much. But anyway, it was fun. So anyway, thanks for joining in on all that. Hope to do it again, maybe in person soon, because we're moving on to that part. So anyway, thank you all for joining in. We had some prizes, and I won't say who won. It wasn't me, but this team over here was excelling that one. Okay, our service day is coming up Saturday. First of all, I know you shouldn't have gotten an email from District Governor Hayden asking for volunteers for the Habitat for Humanity sites that are ongoing that day. So if you are able to volunteer for that, please respond to that email. We will continue taking drop-offs of donations at my home and also Pat Hudson's through Saturday. We will not deliver till next Monday. And depending on what things we have, I'll be reaching out for volunteers. We've already had some people obligate to help take that over on Monday. If you have made any donations through Amazon Smile, those are directly sent on to Interact. If you have, I don't have record of that, and I'm trying to compile what all we've done. So if you have donated in that way, just send me a note and let me know what you have done. So the other thing that I will be sending out to you, I promise you, the last email you'll get from me this week will be the links to the opening ceremonies and the closing ceremony. The opening ceremony is Friday night, and the closing ceremony is Saturday night. So if you're able to log into that, I think we'll give you an overview of all that this big project for us has been. So anyway, thank you very much, and thank you for what you've done.
thank you, Renee. Great update. Look forward to a strong finish. And it's so great to be part of a club that knows how to participate in these special service activities. So thank you all for that. I'd like to now call up Harold Bennett for a very special announcement. Harold?
Very special.
Yes.
Because it involves golf. That's why this is very special. The 15th annual Old Dominion Rotary Golf Tournament is coming up. They've asked that we supply 2 teams of 4, and our club is going to basically pay for 1 team, which means everybody pays half if they want to play. It's for the Boys and Girls Clubs in North Carolina, and it takes place on June 7th, which is a Monday. So if you have any interest, oh, by the way, it is at Mid Pines. So if you know anything about golf in Pinehurst, you know Mid Pines. We're only going to have 8 slots, and I know that 2 have already been filled. So if you want to do this, you're going to have to be quick and make your decision. Get back to me or Scott, and we'll get you signed up as quick as possible.
$70.
It's going to be $70 per person, which basically is half the interest fee that you would have paid if the club wasn't helping sponsor. So if you have any questions, either one of us, and we hope to get this thing signed up and ready to go.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Thank you, Harold.
You said 8, 6 available right now.
Great opportunity for us. We do this every year. It's a district initiative, Boys and Girls Club home in Waccamaw. And so always special to be able to participate in this. We had 8 slots, 2 were just taken within the last 20 minutes. So three taken. All right, it may not, just anybody wants to play, jump in. And lastly, our last announcement is a very special one. And if I could call on Mary Cam to make this announcement and this recognition.
Thank you so much, Scott. Hello, everyone. I would like to, if Travis is in the room, I believe, if he could kind of come up to the podium. And Scott, you be there too, because I think you've got what we're going to be awarding, correct? Travis, thank you so much for continuing your support of the Rotary Foundation, and what Scott has just handed you is your Paul Harris +4 pin. Thank you again, and thank you to everyone who continues to support the Rotary Foundation.
Thank you, Mary. Congratulations, Travis. Awesome. Miracle moments, either in the room or on Zoom, but not all at once. So one at a time. If we don't have any, that's fine. Oh, Harold, miracle moment.
My daughter was married last week in the Maldives, and so we're very happy for her.
Wow.
Wow.
Scott,
We thought you were moving out there. 2 weeks.
Scott,
You want to call on Bruce? Scott?
Oh, Bruce, yes. Bruce,
I would just like to say that miracle moment, I carried Leon Abbas to the hospital this morning where he had cataract surgery. And Dr. Fleming carried out the operation. Everything went well. And I have just gotten home, and he is at home recuperating from cataract surgery.
thank you, Bruce, for the teamwork there. Great. Good to hear. Look forward to seeing Leon soon. And now we move into what will be another special program for us today. If I could invite up Renee Spell to introduce our very special guest for today. Renee?
Hello again. Allison Strickland with Interact of Wake County is with us today. And Allison was the first contact I had when we started this project. She has spent her career serving Wake County nonprofit organizations through direct programming and fund development. She first came to Interact in 2007 as a member of a team that successfully completed a $5 million capital campaign. Previously, Allison served as the development officer of annual giving at Rex Healthcare Foundation, where she led efforts in employee giving and the Rex Gala. Allison has also served as annual giving director of Transitions Life Care. At age 16, Allison remembers being handed a pledge card and asked to make a meaningful donation. And it was just a simple act of giving that became a catalyst for her career in philanthropy. She's a graduate of UNCW and was active for many years with the Association of Fundraising Professionals of the Triangle, and served in various leadership roles with the Junior League of Raleigh. Currently, Allison serves on the governance board for NC 507 Continuum of Care. She and her husband, Matt, have 2 children. Please join me in welcoming Allison today. And I just want to say hello. I feel I haven't seen her before, so thank you.
Thank y'all so much for having me. And y'all are in luck. My daughter just came out while that was going on to need help for her online class. And I think I got her squared away. So maybe I'll get through this without any interruptions. That is the beauty of this time, isn't it? Just rolling with the punches at home, and being a part of a hybrid meeting is pretty cool. The fact that you all have found a way to do that and serve everyone is amazing. I want to first thank you all for your generosity and including Interact in your day of service and collecting some of our urgent needs. I'd like to use this time with you all today to talk a little bit about Interact's programming, as well as kind of how we have shifted and adapted during this period of uncertainty. And what are we saying right now? We're pivoting, everybody's pivoting. So I'll talk a little bit about kind of how we have shifted to respond to the needs of our community. And then I'd love to make sure I have some time for questions, and I always love questions. So please feel free to hit me with some hard ones if you want, and I'll try my best to answer. So currently I am serving as not only Interact's Chief Development Officer, but also as our interim executive director. We're in the process of hiring new leadership at Interact, which is always exciting, and I'll be eager to welcome someone new to our team to help serve in that capacity. Interact has a really important role in our community. We are Wake County's only provider of domestic and sexual violence services. You know, we're real proud of Wake County. We know this is an incredible community. It's a community that I've been a part of my entire life. And yet it is also really hard to recognize that these are issues that happen here. You know, we're consistently ranked one of the best places to live. So how is it also possible that we've got people in our community who do not feel safe in their own homes? The one place that should be a place of security and safety for all of us. That has been an even harder reality for people during this time of COVID, where we've had people who are sheltering in place with an abusive partner, and they're having to choose to stay there in abuse because there were no other safe options, or they're being told to stay home. And what we've seen during this time, we don't have a whole lot of evidence about how domestic and sexual violence happen during a pandemic, because we don't have a whole lot of pandemics that we've experienced in the last so many years. But what we do know is that domestic violence and sexual violence increase during times of great economic strain and uncertainty, during times of natural disaster, such as like after Hurricane Katrina, or when there's been a huge snowstorm and people are hunkered down at home. We know that in those times, domestic and sexual violence increase. And we have seen that play out in our community as well. Not only have we seen the number of calls increase, we've also seen the severity of what people are dealing with. They're waiting later and later to call and ask for help. And so when they finally do reach out, it is at a breaking point when we are speaking with them, when our counselors are speaking with them. Interact offers our services 24/7. We of course have our 24-hour crisis lines, which is often the first way that someone might reach out for help. That line has become critically important during this time of COVID-19, where people weren't necessarily going out to seek services. We very quickly, back in March, made the decision to stop our walk-in services. And really our staff had some great, I think it was February of last year, we said, rather than encouraging people to come in, what if we just saw how far we could get people on our crisis lines? Let's see if we can help people and get their needs met without ever having to have them come in for services. And what we found is that we could do almost everything over those crisis lines that we could do when someone was in person. The other remarkable discovery we've had during this time is through, we have a case management program, we call it PEEP, which is Personal and Economic Empowerment Program, in which we are walking with a survivor for as long as it takes for them to manage and meet the goals that they have so that they can be self-sustainable, so that they feel empowered to and to take control of their future and have the life that they deserve. When we were only operating in person, we would have a lot of skipped appointments. And, sometimes that was frustrating to our staff. They may feel like maybe people don't value this. Maybe they don't think they need our help, or maybe they don't need our help. Maybe we're just spinning our wheels here. But what we found is when we transition those services and offer them virtually, we've had very little people not make their appointments. I think what we failed to realize is that transportation and childcare are huge barriers for people. And when we took away that barrier, all of a sudden we found a deeper level of engagement from those who need us the most. And that has been really incredible. When people think about Interact, they're often thinking about our shelter. We do offer a shelter for individuals and families who are fleeing domestic or sexual violence. This is something we've done in our community and offered for about 43 years. As COVID kind of ramped up over the summer last year, we were in the process of trying to thin out our shelter to make it so that it would be safer for people to have more space to socially distance. Our shelter normally operates in what we would call a congregate setting, meaning that families are sharing kitchens and living rooms and sometimes bedrooms, which makes it kind of nice. I got a visitor behind me. And that is something we've always really enjoyed, but during COVID, that really wasn't the safest way. So we worked closely with Wake County, and we moved our shelter with their financial support. We moved our shelter to a hotel, to an extended stay hotel, where we could provide every family their own space, their own kitchen, their own living room, and their own bedrooms. And that has been a really huge adjustment. It also allowed us to increase capacity, which was a huge need. It is the number one thing people are asking for right now, is a safe place to go. And so for us to be able to meet that need and not have to send people out of county has been really quite a blessing. We've continued to offer that shelter in this hotel setting, and we are kind of anxious about what those next steps might be. As you can imagine, it is not inexpensive to house people in a hotel. And so we know this isn't the long-term solution. And so we're working right now with our community, and we're looking for ideas. So if people have ideas about what shelter might look like in Wake County for these individuals and families going forward. And that's a big thing that we're kind of addressing right now in real time, which is pretty exciting. The other really cool programs that I'm really proud to see us expand upon, and I know this will resonate with your group because I know how strongly you all believe in children's programming, is this summer. We were supposed to do it last summer, but COVID got in our way. This summer, we will offer a residential camp experience for children who've been impacted by violence in the home. It is a program called Camp Hope, and it is a nationally as a national camp model that was started in San Diego. There has been nothing like this in our community ever before. It is an evidence-based camping model in which children who come into this program, we will measure the hope that they have for their futures at the beginning of camp, and then we measure their hope that they have for their futures at the end of camp. And all of their camp experiences are designed to help them have hope for their future. And that may not seem like a significant thing to you all, but it's a pretty incredible thing that you can, first of all, measure hope, and that is a great predictor of a child being able to have resiliency and thrive in their future. Children who have hope can get through the really difficult day-to-day. And so we are real excited. We will be running that camp in partnership with the YMCA and hosting that at Camp Kanata in Wake Forest. We had intended to start that last summer. We did a virtual camp last summer, and this year we are excited about being in person, and it'll be a really special experience. The other very cool thing is it's taking children and making a commitment to them across their childhood. No longer is it our engagement just when they're in our shelter or just when they're participating in a support group. we are saying to that family, your child can be part of Camp Hope and a year-round mentoring program for their entire childhood until they're old enough to come and be a Hope counselor at camp themselves. And so that's a pretty amazing commitment, and we're real excited to go down that journey. That is a little bit, I guess, a very quick overview of Interact services. I do have a question in the chat. What is the age range for Camp Hope? The age range right now, we are starting with 7 to 11-year-olds. And then as those children age up, we will go all the way until they are 15. They'll be kind of junior counselors at the 15 age, and then they'll get to be hopefully counselors, or 15 and 16 will be our junior counselor range. And so that's going to be a really incredible program to watch grow over the next few years. We are looking particularly for young men who can help serve as those Hope counselors. We know that that is a really important part of the program, is to have some good male role models, as you can imagine. And so we are, if you have young men in your lives, perhaps they're college students or just out of college, maybe new young professionals, we are specifically looking and trying to recruit some additional counselors for that program.
Allison, thanks for sharing this information. We sure do appreciate it. I want to encourage anyone who has questions to please, as Tim did, put those in the chat. I had a question, Allison. What is the typical duration of folks in your residential program? How long do they typically stay in your residence?
That's a real great question, and it's a lot longer than you might think. So a typical stay for us several years ago was about 8 weeks, and then it was 12 weeks, and then it was 16 weeks. And it's very interesting in that it's a bigger problem than what Interact can address. It's a community-wide issue of affordable housing and there not being a next place. We do not send someone away until they have their next. We want to make sure that they're transitioning to safe and stable housing. Mm-hmm. And so that is requiring longer and longer stays in our shelter. Right now, we've had some folks who've been with us probably since October, or maybe since there might be a couple that are still with us since maybe July. And that is because, well, COVID is also complicating that a little bit, but affordable housing in our area is really tricky to come by. And so that has been a big reason for that.
Oh, thank you. And just in one other question, how are people referred to your program?
I would say most people are coming to us by way of crisis lines, or perhaps they're coming to us from another community partner. We have offices and staff that we send to various Wake County regional centers, as well as we have a person who's embedded at CPS who can help when there are families that are also involved there. We have a counselor during non-COVID times who operates from the Cary Police Department, and they are there several days a week helping. I have a really cool partnership with many of our local law enforcement agencies. It's called the Lethality Assessment Program. And what that is, it's pretty interesting. It is 11 questions. And these 11 questions are the greatest predictors that someone could be seriously injured or killed. In the old days, when some law enforcement would respond to someone or at emergency room, the person may say, that, the officer or the emergency personnel may realize this person's got something going on. I really feel like they're unsafe. The old way was to hand them a card and say, here's Interact's number, you should think about calling them. Now, the officer, or if it's a Wake Med emergency room personnel, they are doing these 11 questions. And if that person screens highly, their protocol is to immediately connect them with Interact, which was not something that used to happen. And that is a really life-saving program. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. Well, I do want to invite any other questions we may have online, or Bob, any in the room?
We have one here, Rod. Howard Manning.
Okay.
Oh, pass that question along. Howard is wondering, is there an organization called Confident Wake that passes along referrals? Is that the question, Howard? Serves domestic violence victims in the triangle?
I am not, I'm pretty aware of organizations that we're communicating, that we are actively collaborating with. I have not heard of that one before, so I'd love to find out more about that organization. That's not one I'm familiar with.
Tim Carr posted a question in the chat. It says it looks like One Wake might help with affordable housing options. Are you familiar?
There is a lot going on right now around affordable housing, and I think it's going to get better when our stock improves, the amount of housing stock improves, but it's going to take a while. So I think our county's making some great decisions, and they're doing some really good work around improving affordable housing. But there's just not a quick fix. So I think we're sticking it out for right now and hopeful that it will get better.
Great. Allison, I had another question too, which is what are the metrics, I guess, that Interact uses to kind of gauge your effectiveness and impact?
That's a great question. One of them I wish I'd thought to mention is where people go after being in our shelter. So across the country, if you were to call a domestic violence agency and you were to say, tell me how many of your residents from your shelter program return to an abusive home, a good program will tell you that 50 or 60% of those they serve return to the abusive home. In Wake County, for the past, at least 5 years, 80 to 85% of those we work with do not return to the abusive home. Actually, I should say 80 to 85% go into safe and stable housing. Even more than that, it's probably closer to 90 or 95 do not return to the abusive home. And I say that there's a big distinction there we've been trying to make, in that it is not just okay anymore for us to say that someone doesn't return to the home. We want to know that they are stable. And so we've been tracking our metrics a little differently in that. The other things that we track on are through client surveys and saying, do you feel safer? Do you have greater knowledge of resources that are available to you? Do you feel less isolated? And those are the other things that we really want to make sure that people have, and that we are safety planning with 100% of the people who we come into contact with on the crisis lines. That is the best tool that we can give them. When someone is exiting an abusive relationship, they are 75% more likely to be killed than if they just stayed. And so a lot of times people ask the question of why don't they just leave? Well, they don't just leave because it's really dangerous. And so we want to make sure when someone calls us that we're helping them to think through and plan for their safety, because they may not be ready to leave yet. It may not be safe for them to leave yet. So how do we help prepare them? So that's one of the other big indicators that we track on, is making sure that we're doing that.
Yeah, that's a remarkable statistic. Thank you.
Rod, Allison, we have one other question in the room here. Stand by.
Okay.
Allison, Ralph Ashworth was asking about your annual budget and your sources of income.
Thank you, Ralph. So our annual budget, we are just about 6.5 million is our annual budget. And that is money that we have to raise every year. We do not have any fees for services. So all of our services are offered for free for our families and individuals we serve. We have a little bit of earned income that comes in through a thrift store we have in Fuquay Varina called Pass It On. It's a lot of fun. And we have a little bit of earned income from a couple of tenants in the building. A few tenants in the building, but other than that, we are raising every bit of what we need to operate on an annual basis. About 60% of that comes from government sources, which we think is, it's probably a little higher than I would like, because it's very restrictive government funding. But we do feel like the government has a role to play in these issues. These are public safety and public health issues, and so it is important to have their investment. Other than that big chunk of government revenue, the rest of our funding is coming from individuals and corporate and foundations. The greatest percentage after government funding is our individual contributors. I didn't bring the exact breakdown. I could find that for you and send it after the fact, but that's a snapshot. I see Bill is asking, is Interact a standalone organization or is it part of a government department? We are a standalone organization. We were actually founded by a group of women in Wake County who had a friend in crisis, and there wasn't anywhere, they didn't know who could help her. And so we were kind of founded as these group of women were searching for a solution for a friend and realizing there were probably others. We first came to be in 1978, which was right at the beginning of the domestic violence movement of shelters opening up across the country. There were just probably a handful at that time. Interact was one of the earlier organizations. We work with a network of other organizations kind of like Interact across the state and across the country, but we are all separate 501c3s.
You alluded to this just briefly in your response, but that was a question: is how do you collaborate with other organizations in the community and around the state?
I would say, quite frankly, it's one of the things I'm most proud of about Interact. Rarely does anyone come to us and the only issue is domestic or sexual violence. Typically there's something else. Is it mental health? Is it lack of employment? Is it a lack of childcare? Whatever that might be, we need to make sure that we're not working with them on one issue in isolation. So in our building on Oberlin Road, it's a 60,000 plus square foot building. We have ourselves housed with a lot of other organizations that we know people are needing to access. Legal aid, Easter seals for mental health care, the YMCA that operates a swimming pool and also helps get our children connected with childcare and summer camp. We have a house wake office that is helping to connect people who are in danger of becoming homeless with services. We have an organization called Cary that works with domestic violence victims that are South Asian and provides kind of culturally specific support. And so we're constantly working and collaborating with other organizations so that we can help address these issues. We also have been on this process of something called a family justice center model, and that means deeper engagement with the police, deeper engagement with the DA, with our court system. And so we are also working with those partners because our victims have to work with those partners. So we have to make sure those systems are all working well together.
Great. Thank you. Are there any other questions? I don't see any there.
Nothing here, Rod.
Okay. Well, in that case, Allison, thank you again. I'll turn it over to Carolyn Rosdale on behalf of the club.
Allison, thank you so much for coming and telling about many of the very important things that Interact does around the community and for the women and children. It's just so important. As a token of our appreciation, we will get these note cards drawn by our resident artist, Jerry Miller, who is a member of the club, not here today, but we just appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Great presentation, Allison. A lot of good information, and I can tell you on behalf of our club, we're thankful to have an opportunity to be able to partnership with Interact for our service day this year. So we look forward to making a big impact here over the next week. So thank you for being here. And now turn our sights to next week. We have one of our own that will be right here speaking to us. Harold Bennett is going to talk to us about a topic that he has a lot of knowledge about, and one that I know is of interest to each and every one of you. Social media. Are you a pawn? Harold came up with that, I understand, right? So it'll be a great presentation. There's so much going on. Social media, anyway, it'll be a presentation that will be informational, useful, and I'm sure fun. So Harold, thank you for stepping up and speaking to our club next week. In 2 weeks, Dr. Bruce Howell will be bringing forward Dr. Sonny Stewart. with the topic being, remember, no farms, no food. I'm not sure if Bruce came up with that one, but we look forward to that for sure. So thank you, Dr. Bruce Howell, for that. And now, next week's meal, I want to say quickly that I know that we had a good crowd today, have a good crowd today, 21 people. I'm not sure how many of the 21 people came because of my announcement last week of BLTs for lunch. As you may or may not have noticed, that is not a BLT sitting on your sandwich or on your table, rather. We had a slight adjustment I was made aware of this morning. I apologize for that. I hope this passed muster. Again, I encourage any of our members to make recommendations, suggestions on what type of meals you'd like to have. So I'll be sure in the future to give you a better heads up. So with that, so let me just finish off today. Another special week, another special meeting, but I tell you, most exciting, couple things really, but certainly Gracie, congratulations to you. What a big honor it is for us to have you here today. And congratulations, we wish you all the best at the University of North Carolina. And secondly, one of our own, Travis, congratulations to you on your Paul Harris +4. It's a big recognition. It's a commitment. Everybody knows Travis has been with this club a long time. He's done a lot for it. And I appreciate you being here today. And I'm excited that we were able to present that to you. So with that, we've got one more thing to do. So with that, if I could call up Tim Neri to lead us out in the 4-way test. Tim?
Thank you. Of the things we think, say, and do.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you.
I don't get to do that. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, everybody on Zoom.